Hey, today we're here to talk about tents. So at Sequoia Supply, we only carry one variety of tent, and that's for a very good reason. The Big Agnes variety of tent is probably, well, Big Agnes is tents in my opinion. They started from developing tents, I think, at their very core. So maybe some companies have two varieties of tents. I think probably, in fact, there's this statistic out there, but Big Agnes probably has, 50 varieties of tents, and they're always developing. You may get a copper spur, and you can get a copper spur in probably 7 different varieties. So it is by far and away at Sequoia Supply our favorite tent. We carry them here, and that's exactly the reason why. Like all tent manufacturers, Big Agnes has a whole variety of sizes for tents. So you can, they sell tents from everything from overnight bivvy tents. It's an exaggerated, it's not a bivvy sack, it's more of a one pole bivvy for one person. It's a covering on your sleeping bag, all the way up to 8-person base camp tents. So the tent varieties will be dependent on what you're doing, whether you're going out and you're car camping, whether you're going out to the base of Everest and want to put 6 people in an 8-person because you're going to be there for an expedition for 4 weeks, or whether or not it's just you and your son or daughter who wants to go to the backcountry for 2 nights. So they also have a variety of different tents that are now being manufactured specifically for bike packing. There's a few subtle differences that makes a significant difference when you're out on the road with your bike that they've put some good thought into, and all of their tents are pretty similar on how they're set up, but it's like anything nowadays. If you're a skier, you might have 7 different types of skis depending on what the conditions are. Well, if you had enough money, you could have probably 5 different varieties of tents. I think I personally own 6 tents, so it all depends on what you're doing. So they have a tent for every application. So one of the prime things when you're differentiating between tents is the weight of the tent. That's actually, other than assuming that the tent can keep the water off you, which is the most important, but I think most tents can do that, it's the weight. And Big Agnes, by far and away, they've developed the technology up to the point where it is as good as it possibly can be. So the weight really matters when you're going into the backcountry, so you're carrying it on your back, or you're carrying it on your bike for bike packing. Bike packing is something that people have been doing for years, but in the last couple of years, the fad is that it's happening more and more. So they've actually developed tents specifically for that. The weight is essentially everything. So if you go from a 5-pound tent to a similarly sized, a 3-person, 1.5, maybe 2-pound tent, there's a cost difference. But then as you get older, like myself, I've gone to a much lighter tent because, well, it's a lot better for me because I'm not as strong as I was. This is a really good example of this tent that's been developed, I think, over the last couple of years from Big Agnes. This is a classic style or look for a bike packing tent. And this tent, although designed for bike packing, can also be used for backpacking. There's absolutely zero reason why you can't put this thing in your pack, on your pack, whatever you would like. So it's very versatile. It's also super handy for, a friend of mine does a boatload of motorcycle camping. So they throw everything on their motorcycle and they do the Ewan McGregor and they travel around, right? So this thing is super useful because you can literally strap it. And that's how it's designed, is you can actually pick up any of this webbing very, very easily. And you can strap it to your handlebars, you can strap it to the back, you can throw it into one of the containers if you like. It's easy to put onto a backpack. So we're finding more and more that the bike packing tents, because of their versatility, are really handy at a variety of different camping styles. In fact, I'll compare to this one right here, which is another bike packing tent. This would be the copper spur, to another copper spur. I actually own this specific tent. These, for all intents and purposes, these 2 tents are identical. There are some subtle differences that make this a bike packing tent that this is not. This is just a regular bike packing tent or a backpacking tent. So the main thing for me is the bag. This bag is super lightweight, but it's vulnerable. So what I do with this is I take my rain fly on my backpack and I wrap it around this and I strap it to the outside. It protects the cover on the tent. This one has a very durable cover, and I think it's meant for things flying off it, like bugs, gravel. If you've ever been on a bike, you've probably have fallen. I know I fall all the time. So this thing is abrasive resistant, which is super handy. The other thing that you see right away is all the webbing that's on it. It's really easy to strap absolutely anywhere. And the weights are really, really similar. The other thing that you'll notice is that the length of the two are different. And that's because putting this on your handlebars is a lot different than putting this on your handlebars. So what they've done is they've changed the design of the poles. They've strapped them to the outside, so if you wanted to remove the poles and then maybe give them to your bike packing partner, they can carry the poles, you can carry, and you can take the poles out of here, but this is already designed to do that. But the poles are shorter. So they've taken it, they're a little bit, when you pack them up, the diameter is a little bit bigger, but they're much shorter, so it makes it a lot easier to strap this thing in. You could actually strap it on any one of your posts. I suppose even your down post on your bike if you really wanted to. The other thing that's really cool, and you will find this, in fairness, you will find this with a couple of the other manufacturers of backcountry specific tents, that they're actually quite easy to set up. So if you have experience in setting up any lightweight tent, and I'm talking something that's probably on the order of 4-person and smaller, you will find these extremely easy to set up. Usually they come in, and there's all different styles of tents, but usually they come with one set of pole structure. And usually the poles are joined in the middle and they go off in usually 4 different directions. That's the classic design, but it's really easy. And the nice thing about that is that once you extend all of your poles, everything is elasticized. So once you put everything together, they're color coded. And if you lay down your fly or you lay down your ground sheet, everything is color coded. And with Big Agnes, typically it's orange and it's gray or silver. And you'll find that the ends of the poles on where they go are orange or gray or silver, whichever the color is that you choose. So then right away you know that, well, in the orange grommets has to go the orange pole. So it's super easy. The other thing that's really cool about these tents is probably about 90% of them are standalone, which basically means that if you don't stake them, they'll just stand by themselves. That's super handy in many different cases, and one case that it's super handy in is if you want to set up if you get to your site and it's raining, and that's happened to all of us many times. These tents are predominantly 2 and 3 season. You don't get too many ultralight tents that are 4 season, which means that most of the fabric on the top 2/3 of the actual dome of the tent is going to be a like flyweight kind of mosquito netting. Because of that, if you were to set that up in the rain, everything inside gets wet, right? So what you do is you set up your ground sheet. Then what you do is you set up your poles, you attach them to your ground sheet, and then you put your fly up. So now you've got an area. So now the only thing that's wet is your ground sheet, right? You've got now your fly up. So then you can actually go under the fly, and then you can set up the tent inside the fly. So I've only ever had to do that twice, I think, in the backcountry. And then of course in my backyard when I was first trying it out. But it's a cool function. So hey, if you need any additional information on Big Agnes or any ultralight backpacking tent, bike packing tent, hit us up. Come on in, give us a call at the store, and we'll be glad to discuss the different options. You can come in, set up the tent if you'd like. You can get in the tent, you can look at it, we can go over the pros and cons, and I'm certain that we can find the right tent for what you're planning to do and within your budget.